DEI important to Fenwick?
Oh, wow. Well, I think there are a lot of answers for that. I think primarily you have to look at, what is Fenwick here for? What does Fenwick do? And I think as you look at the mission of Fenwick, a lot of this can be found actually on the website. The vision of Fenwick, the mission of Fenwick, it all really talks about DEI ideals and really what we're trying to do with DEI. Just as a Catholic institution, the ideas of being diverse in who we bring under our faith, the ideas of being equitable in how people are treated, and inclusion, obviously. I think all of those, and just how we carry ourselves as being Catholic, really speak to being in DEI and being a part of DEI and adopting DEI ideals. But then you have to look at, we are also not only a Catholic institution, we're an institution of education too. And I think when you do that, you don't educate, small populations, or keep it minimal. You reach out to educate everyone. And I think that Fenwick has really taken DEI ideals as far as education and really trying to do something worthwhile. I mean, we look at where we are. We shouldn't just, it shouldn't just be one community, two communities we reach out to. We should be reaching out to the entire area. I mean, very, very much how our parishes work and our neighborhoods. I think Fenwick should do the same thing. So that's why DEI is important at Fenwick. I think that just going back to just our values of being Catholics, our values as a Christian institution. The DEI only makes sense for them.
My name is Aliki Amir, and I'm a junior.
What do you want DEI to do in the long run for Fenwick and the community?
I think that during times like this, during COVID, it's been hard for us to come together as groups and during clubs and all that kind of stuff. I've seen in past years, IRS, we educate each other on cultures and inclusion and things like that. That's important for DEI at Fenwick, and I think that should be started up again.
I'm Tracy, I'm a junior.
Why is DEI important to you?
It's important to me because I've seen a lot of different minority groups, including gender and race, coming together this year, and having the focus on diversity and inclusion is very important for our school as it's mostly white.
Hi, I'm Jasmine Davis, and I'm a junior.
What changes have you seen at Fenwick this year because of DEI?
Honestly, I haven't seen that much, but I know that there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes based off of what Mr. Mullen has talked about. But what I would like to see is a wider variety of African American teachers and more students in the school, and I would like to see a better showing of that, of how we are appreciating like African American culture.
Is why is DEI important to Fenwick?
With this question, I guess I'd begin with Dr. Lorden. I started teaching here, and Dr. Lorden was my department chair. And Dr. Lorden was very big into the history of the school, and it was from him that I learned when Fenwick was founded, it was actually founded to serve the west side of Chicago and the immediate area around here. In my mind, that hasn't changed. Maybe we've expanded who we serve, but I think we were still founded to serve the area, like 5-mile radius around, and it's very diverse around here. And I think that since that is our mission, and it has been from the beginning, that should continue to be a part of our mission, regardless of who it is that is living in that region, in this area. So that's one answer. I mean, other reasons that it should be important to Fenwick. I mean, I'm a firm believer that people deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of who they are. I think that, you know, in any group, you have good people and people that aren't so good. I think we at Fenwick need to embrace everybody. I think it's important. It's the message that's in the Gospels. It's the way I was raised, and it's the right thing to do.
Right, exactly. Our second question is, why is DEI important to you?
Okay, so with that, I think it gets a little bit, and with me personally, where I grew up. Again, as I alluded to in the last question, it was just how I was raised. And with that, where I grew up, was very diverse. When you look at the number of Latin families, African American families, and white families that lived in the area. It was a socioeconomically depressed area, so there wasn't a lot of money or anything. I would say the vast majority of homes in the area had been broken up into apartments, and typically people that are, renting, that's a different socioeconomic category. So it was kind of how I grew up in just what I knew, and it was when I started getting beyond my neighborhood and doing things like going to high school and going to college, that world was a shock for me. I had to get used to being in an area that wasn't necessarily diverse, and it was a struggle, and it's still a struggle for me, I'll be honest with you. When I decided where I wanted to raise a family, I felt I needed to walk the walk, and so we chose an area that is diverse. I mean, I think a lot of times people that are champions for diversity, they may be champions, they talk about it, but do they live it every day in their lives? As an example, it's one thing to go to a protest march and then go back to your insulated community where, it's all white people, as an example. It's another to live amongst a diverse population, and that is what me and my wife decided that we wanted to do. We wanted it for our kids. We knew our kids were coming here, or at least 2 of the 3 of our kids came here. So the grammar school they went to, they were, as a white student, they were a minority, and that was intentional on our part so that they understood what it's like to walk in other people's shoes. So you can see this is just something that is a part of me and something that I value greatly.
Yeah, that's great. How is DEI being implemented in the curriculum at Fenwick?
Well, this, let's see. Yeah, I think this has been a long process. When I was a member of the social studies department, and we've introduced, in my time, several classes, like the American Foreign Policy class is a class that looks at the modern history of cultures and peoples all over the world. I worked with Bridget Kushevskis, who's not here anymore, but she primarily worked on the African studies, Latin American studies, East Asian history, and African history courses. So, we made efforts there. Now, recently, Mr. Shep has taken some steps to diversify the curriculum at the sophomore level of English. We are actually taking that a step further, and we plan to, both at the sophomore, we're going to reorganize the curriculum, which I don't need to get all into right now.
Yeah.
But the sophomore and junior literature classes going forward are going to be a lot more diverse than what they have been in the past. I think another thing is making people realize what we do have in our curriculum that is diverse. Like as an example, my understanding is that Brother Trout has really hammered away at the theology teachers and telling them, when you're teaching freshman theology, make sure they understand that this isn't the history of white people we're studying, okay? This is the history of West Asian people, you know, and I think when we go into a church and we see images, we immediately assume that Jesus was white, Mary was, and they were Middle Eastern, and that I think is we've come to realize this year is that that's something that students don't realize. So helping them recognize what's diverse already within our curriculum, taking those steps like we're talking about in the humanities to expand the perspective that our students have. Just are some of the steps.
What is the goal of DEI, or what do you think or want the outcome to be in the long run?
You know, I think about actually the words of President Lincoln way back when, and you know, this idea of forging a more perfect union. It seems to me that clearly the work of DEI will never ultimately be finished, but there's always going to be something more to do, something further to implement, some greater understanding and recognition to come to our attention. So I see it really, its goal is just to be vigilant and to be open to just maintaining from now until the end of time, as it were. Because, you know, given human nature, given our own failings, our own blind spots, we'll never come to a day where we say, okay, that's all taken care of, no further need for the committee or the work that we've accomplished it. It's going to be really a kind of a forever thing that needs to be in place. Much like, you know, curricula are not set in stone and you do it once and it never needs to be looked at again. You know, it's
right.
An ongoing thing.
And then my next question is, what changes have already been made at Fenwick because of DEI?
Well, you know, I think the biggest one, of course, is just creating Mr. Molin's position. So they have a director. He has already crafted a couple of year plan in terms of what needs to be implemented and the time frame for that. We have a couple of policies that are about to be approved by the board of directors in light of DEI, particularly anti-racism policy, just so that it's crystal clear, you know, what Fenwick stands for. So I think those would be the biggest things so far, and getting our DEI friars up and running, and I know they've had several very fruitful meetings already.